This is the magicwordpodcast.com.
Good morning. It is Monday, the fourth and final day. Is that right? Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday? Yeah, fourth day. Boy, this seems like forever because we haven't gotten much sleep and it just goes on and on. It's been a lot of fun, and we're going to recap last evening's show as promised in yesterday's podcast episode. And again, this is the 6th of February, I believe. Where are we? We're in September. September. And yes, indeed. We're not getting any sleep. That's why we're drinking coffee here this morning to wake up, because we got another lecture to go to, a couple more. This is, again, Monday morning. We have a half day and some more exciting lectures. But the first lecture up this morning is going to be Sterling, who was the sole person who performed at the Sunday night gala. We had a great dinner. But first of all, let me reintroduce Dal Sanders, who is the past president of the National for the Society of American Magicians. And you've not yet been a president of the T.A.O.M. yet.
I've never been a president of the T.A.O.M., but let's not talk about me. Let's talk about everything else. First of all, I know everybody that's been listening is thinking, Carissa.
Yeah.
Her lecture yesterday was incredible.
It was.
It wasn't on her magic this time. Mm-hmm. It was on building a character like Lucy Darling or any of the other characters she's done. And this is a new lecture, and she's was kind of fine-tuning it, getting it ready for FISM next month, FISM North America next month. And it was incredibly well thought out, well presented. It challenged a lot of magicians, and a lot of magicians are going to come back thinking like, oh, maybe I need to think more about the way I perform. It was an incredible...
She did leave a challenge like that as well, saying, if you don't believe me, just try it once. Please promise me that you will try a character at least once. You don't have to like it, but just try it. It might change your world.
And I just absolutely loved it. I think everybody else did last night. We were talking during the first ever banquet, T.A.O.M. banquet.
It's in my memory, yeah, too.
Well, I asked Trixie. I don't think anybody's got a further back memory this thing than Trixie does, and she can't remember one either.
No, and if we did, it was an extra paper dinner type of a thing. This was something that was included in your registration.
So here's the challenge to all future T.A.O.M. Organizers: banquet. It was very nice. It was excellent.
And, we were all seated. I was in the banquet room, was in the same ballroom at the hotel where the shows were. They had just reset the seats with 10 tops, I guess, actually, for everybody. And so we had, someone had asked Steve Chesaday had asked on Facebook about how many people. We had about, I think, 229 registrants or so here, and about another 30 to 50 virtual people, I think.
They had as many as 61 online at any time. Okay. I asked last night. Mm-hmm. And so I guess they had 61 people sign up for the virtual. Mm-hmm.
But the dinner was great. My point being is the show last night was on the stage where we had seen the previous shows and some of the major lectures. So they just took the seats out, reset the tables, because that was the last night's activity, basically. Again, we have 2 more lectures today, but they're going to be in the small rooms because typically people are heading back home today, and it's a scaled down size for people who attend these lectures. But the thing is, if you are a convention organizer, to think about having a dinner as part of the registration and having it in that ballroom, because everyone just turned their seats around and bada bing, there's the show. And having maybe just one person as opposed to a variety show.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And there's something about having a dinner together. I mean, even if you're just at a table with your friends, you get up and you move around to the other tables and you get to see other people. Mm-hmm. And there's just something that brings people together when they feel like they've had dinner together. And I just think that the feeling in the room was so warm. It was just great last night.
It was a lot of fun, and I have to congratulate Cindy, your wife, again. First of all, that you said yesterday when we were chatting about how she got up to help Brian Brushwood and got a Mr. Happy Pants T-shirt. Well, last night, wasn't her name drawn for one of the posters?
We've got a new poster. We've got a Herman framed poster, and let's see. I think we have some room left in the house. And Cindy told me, she said, "This is my poster. We'll find room for my poster." So I said, okay.
Okay.
So And
Last
then the
night,
show.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Oh my. Now you went to all the World Magic seminars back in the day, and like me, you saw Sterling probably when he was 14, 13, 14, something like that, and then we haven't seen him at all for like 8 years.
No. Because he competed in one at the T.A.O.M., he competed in one at the S.A.M., competed in one at the IBM. So a few people who are listening out there might remember the name. I think he went by Sterling. His last name is Dietz, but now he just goes by Sterling.
Yeah.
But yeah, we haven't heard from him for years.
We hadn't heard from him about what he's been doing. He's been down at Cabo working in a theater every night, building the show and getting flight time, as Matt King always talks about, getting that time on the stage. And he was amazing. And it's kind of irritating because he looks exactly the same. You know, I've aged a good 10 years in the past 10 years. Everybody else, not Sterling. He wore the coat he wore in 2006.
Yeah, you know, I had said this complimentary to him, as he looks like a ventriloquist figure, because he's just kind of has a great looking face, and he's got this little body. I mean, he's not a diminutive man by any means, but he just, I could never remember fitting into a jacket like that.
I can't remember fitting into a jacket I wore 10 years ago. So...
But he was phenomenal, and before he began, he had performed close-up. It was one of the professional close-up show performers, and then I thought, well, but he's supposed to carry the whole evening show. I mean, there was nobody else on the schedule but him. It just said Sterling, and I thought, boy, going to carry an hour and a half, and was I wrong? He was fantastic.
He really, really was. Again, there's just something about being able to perform every night on your own stage, to just build something up and be able to be really, really professional. Plus, he studied with McBride. He studied with Denny Haney. You know, he studied with some of the best of the best. So, you know.
So people were asking what made him phenomenal. What was it? Was great. And I will say also, this is kind of cool. Before it even began, one of his assistants, a lady, had walked out on stage and said that tonight what you're going to be seeing is not just a magic show. You're going to be seeing art and dance and music and all this combined that will take you on an emotional roller coaster. You'll see illusions, manipulation, comedy, a little bit of everything, all in one with this one guy. And it was just him and that assistant, and then his wife had helped at some point during the show then too. But so it did cover the whole gamut. So it was phenomenal.
It really, truly was. I have to ask, what was your favorite part of
Linking Rings?
Mine too. Unbelievable. You know, I love the linking rings. It's why I'm a magician. I wanted to know how that puzzle worked, and no one would tell me unless I started studying magic. So, but I've always thought, I just wish they wouldn't clink. Now, I know one magician in all my years in magic that does a silent linking ring routine. It's Paul Spinagle, and out of Atlanta. And Sterling did a silent linking ring bit last night that was just, I mean, I came out of my chair. Yeah. I just was so excited to see it. And it was done with beautiful grace, dance, and everything else. And every move was no clinking, no tink, no nothing, just linking like rings of smoke.
The way they should, exactly. And further to that point, Dal, I thought the fact he did come in from Cabo, he does illusions down there, and he apparently had one that was coming, but it didn't make it in time, so Ray Anderson had brought an origami, which they rehearsed with his box, but essentially with the same routine and everything, and it was great. But my point is about the linking rings. His assistant brought out this briefcase and just set it on the floor. So he had no accoutrement. There was nothing, there were no tables or, backdrops or anything. It was simply a suit or a briefcase on the floor. They opened up and pulled out the rings and then blew us away.
Absolutely. It was beautiful.
He started with manipulation. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Of course, he learned a lot from Denny Haney, and oh, my gosh.
Yeah, his billiard balls, I mean, I was not expecting the 100 billiard balls all over the place at the end. And then I was worried that he was going to, slip on one because I would have.
Yeah. But, all over the stage, yeah.
But it was just great. Not a flaw in the show.
It wasn't. It was really great. And this morning he's going to be lecturing at 9 o'clock. And I'm assuming he's going to be talking about building an act, working a theater, and all this. Because, again, he's probably, I'm guessing, 32 maybe?
Is he that old?
I'm only guessing that because he had said when he was 17, I believe, that he went with his parents. He was from Washington State. Linden, I believe is the name of the town. He went down to Cabo, Mexico. It's Cabo San Lucas in Mexico with his parents. They went to a hotel, and they said, hey, while we're here, let's look at some other theater venues within the hotel complexes around. And they did, found something, and then he did that. And then later... I don't know if he went to college or not. It sounds like he just went straight into performing.
I think he did. I think he did. He looks so young still. He still looks like he's 17 or 18.
Yeah.
So if he's 32, I'm
saying that because I think it was, didn't he say 2005 or 2006 when he was 17? So that's why I'm kind of doing the math, I guess, on that, of thinking around that.
Yeah, I think the math is right. Mm-hmm. So.
Got a show.
Yes, it was amazing.
And then after that, I don't know, you stuck around to see Vince Wilson's seance.
I missed it. I felt terrible, but I did stick around, and I had some chatting done with Biz, and Bizarro was here, of course, and Carissa, and Biz and I are well, Biz mostly, I'm kind of facilitating it, are going to do something really cool for the SAM convention in January in Las Vegas. And I'm not going to tell you what it is yet, but it's not going to be anything that you expect. So,
if you guys are thinking about another major convention, first of all, it's going to be in Las Vegas, so you got that appeal, number one. Number two, it's going to be a great convention because it's hosted by the SAM, and there are a lot of people like Dal and Bizarro who are putting together special events like you're going to be experiencing there. I'm registered for that. I hope that you guys can register for it soon then, too. So you were staying up late talking with them. I did watch Vince Wilson's show, and he's going to be lecturing later after Sterling is finished here this morning. But his show was a seance. So, and it was interesting. He said, I have to give a disclaimer, and that is, everything you see is real. It is real. I mean, there are no tricks or anything. It was all psychological. And basically trying to bring Houdini back, had 6 people, sitters coming up from the audience, and had everyone kind of in a mild hypnotic trance to see if they could actually see things that were on the table. And it was, some people have said, hey, that's not my cup of tea. And for me, I thought it was phenomenal because he was doing this for magicians who are generally skeptics when it comes to seances to begin with. But I said, if you're doing this for the real world, I would imagine, because he had 6 people sitting up there, I'd probably say at least half, maybe to 100% of the people really do freak out and see something. He said, absolutely. It was a different dynamic, obviously, last night, or early this morning. And personally, I enjoyed it. I sat and chatted with him for another hour. And I had an episode with him last year, I believe it was, or no, it was. You'd have to go back and look at the episode, and if you're interested in that sort of thing. But I knew it'd be great because he has a theater called the Poe Theater out in Baltimore. So I know he's used to working rooms like this, and can really entertain. So anyhow, I enjoyed it. So there you go.
Again, kind of a theme last night. He has his own theater. He's doing his own thing. He's getting that flight time. Mm-hmm. And anybody who's listening, I suggest getting out and trying to work as much as they can.
Right. I don't care if you're working Rotary Club luncheons or chicken dinners or Blue and Gold banquets. Go and do something. Get out there and say, well, they're not paying much. This is a charity show or whatever. It doesn't matter, particularly if you're working on a new character or a new act and you're already a professional, you should go and do that. Or if you still just, doesn't matter who you are. I think it's good to keep your practice, keep in practice by going out and doing that.
At least get up in front of your magic club every month.
Right, exactly.
Do something. Try to practice this art we call magic as much as you can. And tomorrow, we get back. A lot of people are going to be resting, and we have a magic in the living room tomorrow night. So in Dallas,
yeah. Okay, yeah. Now that's been going on now for 3 years.
Yes,
okay.
This is we took 9 months off. Had to take 9 months off, but we've got 3 years under our belt.
And the fellow who is the artist for the posters is phenomenal, and I was honored to be one of the early people. I know you've got those framed in your hallway, and as many as you're doing, eventually you're going to either have to move or rotate those pictures.
I think we're going to rotate them. So yeah, that's Brad Kozak is the artist, and he does a really great job. Mm-hmm. And so,
great characters. Well, Dal, thanks very much as always. Safe travels home. Enjoy the rest of the convention as is left, and we'll see you down the road.
See you.
So the Magic Word Podcast. That was Dal Sanders. Scotty out. We just finished a lecture, first morning lecture, which was by Sterling, and the next one is coming up here shortly with Vince Wilson. Again, on Monday, as we have this is the last day, which is, again, a half day of the convention. And I have with me the star of last night's show and the person who gave us the lecture. Welcome, Sterling.
Thank you so much, Scott. Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad that you are here, and you really just killed last night. I have to also pay this compliment. As I was getting on the elevator, there was a gentleman who was a past president, actually, at T.A.O.M., said, I've been coming for 27 years, and Scott, he said, I've got to say that is the best evening closing show I have ever seen at the T.A.O.M.
Wow, that's high praise. I appreciate that.
It was well done, and as you were explaining today in your lecture, being so well scripted, I know you script, and but that seems so improvisational. Plus, you were really in the moment, much like what Carissa was talking about in her lecture then, too, yesterday.
Absolutely. Eugene Berger was a large proponent in my life for scripting and for having the pauses, everything laid out. And he said that doesn't take away from your improv, that enhances your improv, because you have the script to rely on that allows you to jump out of your script when you see an opportunity to improvise something and then come right back to your script. So it actually makes your improv stronger the stronger that you script out what you're going to do on stage.
And you feel more comfortable also because you have kind of a fallback, because you know it's going to be working. It's kind of like when you're trying new material. You can try out something. If it's not working, you can always fall back because you know you got something strong that you're going to follow with. Just like you were saying in the lecture a while ago, I'm not sure really, something I've been working on. I hope you guys are going to enjoy this. If you don't mind, I'll show you something. But then you pull out your best thing,
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, putting new material like in between the strongest parts of your show too. Like the remembrance, the can manipulation is pretty new for me, so I put that between two pretty strong acts with audience members to make sure that
which one was what?
So the can manipulation I was doing with the
explain what people who weren't here.
Okay. So right, so I do an act based on Day of the Dead, and it's basically a love story between me and my wife. And I talk about the history of Day of the Dead, how it started thousands of years ago. It's one of the most beautiful traditions I've ever seen. It's a different way to celebrate the lives of those that we've loved and lost. And so I loved this holiday tradition so much, I decided to make an act about it. And so it starts with setting the ofrenda, or the altar to the person. And it's got candle manipulation to set the candles, and then an orange petal storm, like a snowstorm, for the bridge between the dead and the living. And then to kick, I do a toast to the audience to make sure that they drink, and then I say, well, now that the poison's made its way through your bloodstream, that's when you can finally see the dead as they do, and that's when my wife is in the audience, and she comes up with a large sombrero, and then the back of which is facing the audience, and then when she's revealed, she's completely painted in full skeleton Katrina makeup, which takes over 2.5 hours to actually put all the flowers on and glue everything.
I've got a picture I took there last night, which will be on the blog. So if you go to themagicwordpodcast.com to this week's episode, you'll see that photo. So,
oh, wonderful! Yeah, we'll have to go pull that one because I don't think Kaylee got a photo of that. But yeah, so that's the act, and this is our first time doing it in that way, because in Cabo we do it as a full dinner show. So we have lots of breaks between the small beats of magic while we're just interacting with the people at the dinner show. So this is our first time like smushing it all together into like an act that will go into the main show as well.
Well, this was a dinner show last night. I mean, from the standpoint they had dinner and then they watched the show. But is yours dinner show a little bit different, in which that you do something and then they eat and then they come back and you do some more? Or what is your show like there at Cabo?
Right. So the dinner show in Cabo is called Dinner de los Muertos, and it's open to 24 people maximum. And it used to be a common table. It isn't anymore, just due to restrictions. But people come in, they come to the entrance, and myself, I have on like traditional Mexican attire with sombrero, and I wear a mask over my face. Okay. And so I introduce them. I'm I'm the host for the evening. They come in, and when the doors open, you can just hear gasps because there's just thousands of flowers. There's hundreds and hundreds of candles that just line the pathway to their dinner table. And so when they go in, they see the chefs working on the meal, and everyone's just normal faces. And so they come in. I explain about the tradition, do the snowstorm, talk about the bridge, and then they go to the cemetery, which is where like the real celebration begins.
Physically, they're walking.
Yes, into a cemetery that we made in the garden of the resort I perform at. Yeah. So they come and they sit at the table, And then that's when I say, normally you can only celebrate Day of the Dead for 3 days, but we found a loophole. We found a workaround. You remember that tequila shot that you had when you first came in? Well, there was a little something extra in that, and you changed the bottle from tequila to poison. And so then it said, now the effects will wear off in some time, but until then, you belong to the land of the dead. And the waiters that were like serving them the drinks, when they look behind them, they're completely painted in Katrina makeup as well. So it's like they've transitioned from the world of the living to the world of the dead.
Wow, cool.
For that evening. So I take off my mask. For the dinner show, I'm totally painted, but for my regular show, it's just Kaylee that is. Mm-hmm. So I introduced Kaylee throughout the dinner to like talk about her, because the largest ofrenda is like has her photo on it. And it has all the things that she liked in life. So I talk about how it's never really been set perfectly yet. And if the ofrenda isn't set perfectly with everything that they were in life, then the dead can't cross over. And so near the middle of the show, after they've had like a couple courses, I'm doing close-up, I'm doing cups and balls, just things that fit with the things that they have at the dinner table. So I'm doing like cups and balls with their balls and like the lime loads that are on the table as decoration and things like that. But when I talk about Kaylee, I say I have one regret in life, and it's that I wish I had asked her to marry me before she passed. We always loved to dance, but I never asked her to be mine. And so I take the ring that I have in my pocket and I put it on the ofrenda. And the second I put it on the ofrenda, the bell starts to ring, mm-hmm. like the spirit bell that's on the altar. And so it's like, oh my gosh, maybe this is it. And so then I set the rest of the ofrenda, the music starts. Have you ever really loved a woman in Spanish? It's really beautiful. Take the candles, set the altar, put the ring inside the box, and the table starts to float. This is the Santa table, which I'm really happy to put that in that act.
Yeah.
The audience, they love that. And so then when the table goes down, I take the cloth off of the ofrenda, and then she appears behind it.
Oh, nice.
So I like whip the cloth off of it. She appears behind it in the full makeup, and then we do the waltz routine that you saw last night.
Lifting the table to begin with, it all made sense.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So like all these things just fit really well together. And then when she comes, it's like we're really nervous because it's my first time seeing her in forever. So I'm just like fumbling around, and I do some magic to kind of like profess my love. And we have this really really nice moment after dessert where the bells start to ring, like the church bells, and it's time for Day of the Dead to be over. It's time for the magic to fade. And so there's a deep sadness there as we come together for the last time. And I layer on the top of the ofrenda, which is an Azra levitation. And so then she puts the flowers over her chest like she was on the day that she died, and I put the cloth over her, and then she floats up, and then she vanishes, and then the lights fade to black. They come back up, and then I say thank yous to everyone, and she comes in from the entrance. So she like does an appearance in the back of the room when she comes in. Right. And that's the end of our dinner show. Just like close up throughout, but never doing close up like while they're eating, because that's like another star of the show as well. Like you don't want to distract from that. So.
Right. Well, it's interesting, that they're eating during the time, and so they're taking little breaks, I guess, and still having this overall immersive experience. You say only 20 people
yes.
at a time? Wow.
Yeah, very immersive. We've gotten very good feedback on it, and especially people that normally wouldn't get to experience this tradition unless they came for a very specific date. Mm-hmm. They've actually like decided we're going to come for the real thing now. We're going to come like during Dia de los Muertos so we can see it as it's meant to be celebrated.
So this is different though from the regular show, which includes illusions and everything then.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's the dinner show, but then my regular show, which I do in the Speakeasy Theater, which is in the same resort, that's just my regular show. But I'd like to add just an act from the dinner show, just to kind of show people what it's about, and still show people the tradition that I've come to love, even if they don't book the dinner show. If they just come to my regular show, they get to see a portion of that. So that's the act that's come together most recently, and so we tether that between two stronger pillars in my show.
Wow, that's phenomenal. And if people want to come down for a vacation, where can they get tickets or find out more information?
Absolutely. The shows that I'm performing for the public are at Las Ventanas al Paraíso, that translates to Windows to Paradise, and it's on the corridor between San Jose and Cabo San Lucas. Normally, you'd have to stay there to come and see the show, just for restrictions right now, but if you know me, you can contact me personally, and I can get you tickets to come see it, just as a personal friend of mine.
Okay. But there's nothing, well, again, you typically would have to be staying at the resort, and so you can book your reservations through the hotel there.
Yes. Yes. When restrictions open up, you'll be able to book your tickets through the resort itself.
Okay. And the resort is called what again?
Las Ventanas.
Las Ventanas. Mm-hmm. Okay. With a V, as in Victor.
Yes, that's right.
I think you pronounce the V like with a B, like Ventanas or something.
Yeah. The translation took me a long time to get. I still can't roll my R's. I've lived there for 11 years. So.
And you actually learned some Spanish to begin with when you were from Washington State up in Linden?
I did. Yeah. We have a very large Mexican community in Linden, where I'm from, and I thought that'd be the perfect language to learn. It was either that, French, or Latin, and I figured I wasn't going to be using French or Latin very, very often, so I chose Spanish. And so I took 3 years in high school, went up to Spanish 3, and then I was able to immediately apply it when I moved to Mexico the year after graduating. And then my assistant told me how I was butchering the language a little bit, because the Spanish they teach you in high school is not the same Spanish that they speak in Mexico. Yeah. So she was having to correct me a lot of things. I was speaking formally, she said, like a priest or something when I was talking. So she taught me a lot of the slang. She helped me script the entire show in Spanish, so I can do my show in English. I can do it completely in Spanish. I just can't do it bilingually, because that's really hard to do when you're shifting
back and forth.
Yeah. It's like you start to lose people when you shift languages.
Right.
So.
Now, you have not performed here at the T.A.O.M. since you had won the stage contest back in 2005?
2006, that's correct. Yeah, that was my first T.A.O.M. That was in Dallas, I believe. Mm-hmm. And I competed and won in the youth stage competition and the People's Choice Award that year. And it's customary for the person who wins that to come back and perform the following year. Something happened where I actually got grounded from my parents. By my parents, they grounded me, and I was saying something like, "What's the worst thing you can do to me? I stay in my room and practice magic all day anyways." And they said, "Well, okay, that's your decision." And so I couldn't go to the convention that year. And but yeah, Bertel and I were great friends, and when he was president, he the second he became president, he gave me the call, and he said, "I'm going to be performing in the T.A.O.M." Yeah. And I said, "Okay, what do you want me to do?" And he said, "Bring everything." And so, yeah.
And so there you did, and here you are. But also you had won other contests in the IBM and SAM as well.
I have. Yes, I won the IBM competition People's Choice Award in 2007, I think. Oh, the years they fly. But World Magic Seminar was...
But again, basically, you really haven't attended any conventions, let alone performed any conventions, because you had your own thing down there for people to come to see you, I guess, basically. So this is your first magic convention in how many years?
Yeah, it's my first magic convention in 7 years. And I would like to attribute that to just the fact that I had my own show that I was focusing on, and it is partly that. But also, if I can say, it was partly due to like personal reasons for 7 years ago. My magic kind of took a turn when Hurricane Odile happened in Cabo. So the hurricane happened, wiped out a year of my work and business that I had planned. I was literally loading the car with the illusions to travel down for the next year, and when we heard the news, the hurricane happened, and that's when no tourism was coming in for an entire year. They had to rebuild everything. So I stayed home, and during that time we had some pretty big family issues. My parents decided to get a divorce, and so it was really tough because magic was always with them. Yeah. It was always like a family unit. My dad would help me with the business. My mom would take pictures and help me with posters and materials. And so it was always a family thing. And then when they split, it was like magic got really painful for me. Yeah. To the point where it was really hard to even like watch magic online or even like see magicians, just because seeing other people have that love for it and feeling that pain when I did it was really difficult. And it took me a long time to get over that. In Cabo, I was performing still, but it was very
stilted, and it was just cardboard. It wasn't really a lot of passion in it, probably.
Yeah, and it wasn't growth. It was just like, it was growth in a different way, I should say. It's like, my show kind of stayed where it was for a while, but as my emotions changed, my feelings grew, I feel like I grew so much from that period of healing. And I have my wife Kaylee to thank for that. I met her that same year that everything happened, and she was just with me every step of the way.
Yeah, but magic was on the back burner for quite a while until you kind of came back around.
It was.
Yeah, went through the healing process. So you got to go through grief. I
Yeah.
understand personally from my own life. Yeah.
It did, and it really helped me to empathize with other people and realize what they were going through, things that I was just naive to.
Yeah. Well, I'm really glad that you came here and you shared magic with us. It was fantastic, and hopefully other conventions will hear about you, and they'll be wanting to have you then as well, but you may not be available.
Well, it's an absolute pleasure. I had so much fun at this one. I feel like I would be open to doing a couple more, I think.
Well, there you go. We're convention organizers. Be on the alert. And if they want to contact you, how can they, by the way? Website or what?
They can contact me at Sterling. So my email is sterling@magicsterling.com, and that's probably the best way to get a hold of me,
Easy
or
enough.
through social media.
Yeah, great. Sterling, thanks very much. It's been fantastic, this whole convention, and it was a good capper that we had last night's show, and then your lecture as well was really good this morning, too. So thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Scott, for having me, and thank you for your insight on the show and the night's tour that I'm working on.
Sure. Good luck. Okay. So, with the Magic Word Podcast, that was Sterling. Scotty out. Excellent. We just finished the second lecture of the day, which actually is the last lecture of the convention here for the Texas Association of Magicians Convention. And it was given by Vince Wilson, who was the one also who did the Midnight Seance, which was the finale to the T.A.O.M. After Dark thing that was hosted by Saul Ravencraft, which was a very interesting thing and something perhaps of interest to some convention organizers who might want to consider something a little bit different, to have a late night, kind of a spooky kind of a thing. And so Vince was picking up a little bit and talking about how that you can add some spooky things to your repertoire to expand your various streams of revenue as a magician, to do some seances. So Vince, hello, good morning.
Hey Scott, nice to see you again. Thank you for having me back. Yeah, we're heading into what I call the month of Halloween. Like we shouldn't even call it October anymore. Right. It's like Halloween has become a multi-billion-dollar market, and people are looking for entertainment. And one of the things that Bizarre Magic can do for any magician is make money at the very least this month. Mm-hmm. When people are calling you saying, "Can you do a Halloween magic show?" They're not asking you to show up in a jack-o'-lantern vest. All right, they're asking for a Halloween magic show. Maybe it's storytelling, just telling the story of the history of the jack-o'-lantern, or even having ghosts are the reason this effect works. Mm-hmm. It can be as simple as that. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, but they do want something not just I look like. David H. Pumpkins or S. Pumpkins from SNL. I actually do spooky magic, and I can do storytelling and narrative for your children's show, which isn't too scary but might mention ghosts or witches and things like that. Or for adults, there's a little known market that very few magicians even know exists. Only one person in this whole room who knew what I was talking about, and that's underground magic shows. Mm-hmm. Underground magic shows are best represented, I guess, by David Blaine, because he does like those celebrity shows he does. When you see those clip shows he does on Hulu, in which he is performing for Harrison Ford, for example, he's doing magic shows for them, and they're taking aspects from it with their permission. Mm-hmm. That's basically an underground magic show where you perform in the mansions of the rich, politicians, sometimes people you don't want to know where the money came from. That's right. That's right. It's in expensive hotel rooms and lounges and mansions and things like that.
I remember talking to one magician whose name I'm not going to mention, but he was talking about working for someone whose name he could not mention, but he said, well, he owns Microsoft. So you kind of, it was up in the Northwest, so maybe you can go from there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But you're right. These magicians, these people that hire these magicians, they want someone they can brag about. It said, "Oh, you got that guy? Yeah, his card tricks were great, amazing. But look what I have tonight. He's going to scare the pants off of you," and that sort of thing. And maybe it's not scary, but they want something that's different, unique, and that's the one thing. Like you break down Bizarre Magic, that's what it is. It's unique and different. They try to make it stand out. And that is useful information for any magician who's competing against 10,000 other magicians doing the same card tricks and things like that, is how do you make yourself stand out? How do you make yourself unique and different?
And you could take some standard tricks as well and just put a bizarre twist to it, as we were talking about last evening about just a invisible deck in which you would use Glorpy with it, or a little invisible hand, or something to kind of then add a story around that, as opposed to you name a color, you name a card, you name the suit or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. So think about it this way. That's a good point. If mentalism can be repurposed as bizarre magic for the Halloween season, instead of you being the genius Sherlockian mind reader, it's ghosts revealing the information. It's spirits from beyond, possibly trying to solve their own murder from the past, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, it's like you don't have to reinvent the entire wheel for a Halloween magic show. Yeah. You just have to put a structure around it, a storytelling. I would consider Sterling from last night a bizarre magician in a way, because he's taking
the Day of the Dead thing.
Exactly, the Day of the Dead for sure, absolutely 100%. But also the fact that he used classic stage illusion effects that everyone in the audience knew about. We've seen variations on it before. The Day of the Dead was a very unique in itself effect. He did all these, but he put his own spin on it. That was a Sterling show. It wasn't a Copperfield. It wasn't a Lance Burton. It was Sterling's magic show last night. And it's one thing every magician should strive to be, is that you want to be introduced as Scott Wells, not tonight's magician.
Right.
Because why would anyone remember that?
Right.
Well,
same thing like Sterling had mentioned in his lecture earlier this morning about, certainly we have all heard this story when you talk with someone who's been on a cruise ship and they say, I saw a great magician, what was his name? Don't remember. People just don't seem to recall that. And so it's important that you brand yourself and you do put your name out there, whether it's on a sign or something. It has to be memorable, because you want them to remember Vince Wilson, not that magician. A generic, what I would call the Muzak magician. You're not going to be background noise. You want to be somebody.
Exactly, and that's how they can. If they don't remember your name, they can at least try to Google you later by using terms and aspects of the show that might be recognized and deep within your branding, so they can come up across your website or your social media. People, hire me based on the search terms, not necessarily because they know my name. They found me. Said, "Hey,
Edgar Allan Poe, for an example."
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Exactly. I was looking for something Poe related, because we're doing something at the Westminster Burying Grounds, or the Poe House. Where they have the Westminster Hall at the Westminster Burying Grounds in Baltimore is a functioning event hall, and people have weddings and things like that too. And they found me to do functions there through my association with Poe related magic. But people might be looking for, they don't know what bizarre magic is. It's not a common term, although mentalism is now, which is surprising. Who would have thought that would have happened? Yeah. But people know terms thanks to shows on television like strolling and walk around and things like that. It's getting into the public conscious. Bizarre magic isn't there yet. But they can find a bizarre magician by usually typing in spooky or creepy or something like that. You actually don't want to search for creepy magician. That shows up the wrong.
That's thing. A whole different thing. That's right. Well, Vince, thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed your first T.A.O.M. I assume too.
Yes, it is. Yes, it was. So I was just telling a few people earlier. Paul Draper sent me a message. He was like, "How was T.A.O.M.?" And I told him, I said it was great. Everyone's being very respectful of each other. They were, I think a lot of people here are vaccinated. People were wearing masks, whether they were or not, in some cases. And it was such a professional, post for how a magic conference should be done, whether it's during the end times, the pandemic, or whatever, or not. It is still a great conference. Like, everyone is absolutely wonderful, very polite and welcoming and that sort of thing. The hotel staff said this is what their favorite conference.
Oh,
You know,
really? That's
yeah. I talked to a few members of the hotel staff that said, "We want you to come back here all the time. It's a shame that you guys had to move from city to city." Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you had a good experience with this as
did.
well. So
Yeah.
look forward to seeing you then again. I'm so glad, actually, after we had connected some time ago and we did an episode, we finally get to see each other face to face over
Exactly,
here. So it's
yeah.
been great. Vince, thanks again very much, my friend. And so until next time, that was Vince Wilson, and get ready for Halloween, folks. This is Scotty out. So now the convention is over. We have completed all of the activities, and everyone is saying their goodbyes and heading home and looking forward to Fort Worth for next year, in which we're going to be having the Texas Association of Magicians Convention there. And registration is open, by the way, so you can go to TAOM.org and click on the drop down there so you can look at the what's going to be happening next year and register for that convention. And, of course, the earlier you register, the better your seat will be. So I'll just kind of tell you that. Well, at the beginning of this whole convention, and we were talking with the president, Bertil Fredstrom, about his anticipation for what was going to be happening. And now we have it over. I thought we'd kind of conclude with what Bertil has to say. So hello, Bertil.
Hey, nice to see you again.
So I think everything went pretty well. Just personally, I'm not going to put a lot of words in your mouth, but I will give you my 2 cents. What were your thoughts about how things have been going?
Well, your thoughts, your thoughts are worth more than my thoughts because you are one of the participants.
Yeah.
But I have heard from a lot of participants, and they have been happy. So I am happy. We will see. We will go back to the treasurer and see if this actually worked. But I think this is a convention with 220 magicians that broke even, which is magic in
That's
itself.
right, yeah. Given where we are right now in this post-COVID or wherever we are in this COVID time, certainly. And, I think one of the biggest recommendations I can make to any convention organizer is to have plenty of planning. And that's something that you had, a good organizational skill, someone who is going to be responsible for stopping, the buck stops, but also to assign tasks and having a competent committee.
Yeah, we have had a lot of meetings, and most magicians are not very fond of meetings and planning because they're artists, right? But it's very good to have one guy or two that are caring about the little details and
That's right.
and writing minutes and writing agendas and all of that stuff.
Well, just as Henning Nelms has said, the attention to detail is the essence of showmanship. And much that can be applied to the organization of a convention as well. If you will have attention to those small things, everything else, the large ones, will fall into place.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. And another thing that I would recommend if someone is planning a convention is see if you can fit a little air in the budget, because things will happen, and you have to have a small buffer. So that's the question mark right now, is our buffer enough to fill those things that we didn't know would happen?
Right.
Because you have to roll with the punch. Whatever happens,
We shall see. That was one of the things that's kind of a surprise after conventions I've been associated with, where it's like, well, we weren't expecting this bill. Kind of a thing.
So some of the artists that we hired, we don't even know what they are charging yet.
Yeah, I understand. But before we went into this early on, I was asking you what it was that you might be worried about, or perhaps the biggest kind of worry. Did you see any problem?
I did not know what I should worry about, because I thought we covered everything.
Yeah.
And on top of that, we did take an insurance. So if something happened that was really bad, we had magicians fall off the stage and things like that. We were covered for that too. So that's another thing I recommend. On top of everything else, buy an insurance for things that can go really bad.
Absolutely. So right now, again, you haven't had a chance to have any kind of an afterglow and thinking back on the things, we should have done this or could have done that, or I'm happy and satisfied with this or that. But what are your quick initial thoughts of the whole convention to kind of conclude here?
I tried to put some Swedish stuff into a Texas convention, and I think people enjoyed that.
Sure.
We had a real sit-down dinner with plated food.
Which has never happened.
Exactly. We had a real trinkets and trash gift to the conventioneers, something that they...
Posters were awesome, yeah.
Yeah, and what else did I do that was strange and unusual? Well, we had the chef actually present the food before we ate it.
Never had that either. Yeah, where the chef actually comes out and says, here's what you're going to be enjoying, and hope you do. And yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah. But that's the only thing I can think of. I try to put what I would like to see in a convention into the convention that I was
Well, you've attended a lot of FISMs also, and I got that FISM flavor here.
Thank you. I was actually trying to put a little FISM or Europe or
European flavor.
Yeah, or world flavor into Texas.
Yeah. Well, and you certainly did that in
Thank you very
spades.
much.
So thank you very much. Congratulations on the job. Well done to you and all of your staff, committee, and people behind the scenes. My gosh, and there were tons of them, as well as performers and all the participants who came and those who were watching virtually. That came across pretty well, I understand, too. They really enjoyed that. I think there were about 70 people at the high point, I believe, who were watching virtually.
Yeah, I don't even know the numbers because people were buying virtual tickets in the middle of the convention. And just for your information, you can buy virtual tickets to the convention after the convention, too, because it's going to be online for a week or two.
Oh,
so
good.
if you want to catch up, you can still buy tickets. It's still $100 for the entire convention,
Which includes the lectures and everything.
even though the convention is already over. That's magic in itself.
You could attend a virtual convention that is already over. There we go. Bertil, thanks very much. Congratulations again on job well done. And so that's a wrap over here from where we are in Pflugerville, outside of Austin, Texas, and for the Texas Association of Magicians 2021 with President Bertil Fredstrom. This is Scotty out.
Thank you.